Hello and hello. Welcome back to the Undisputed Champ YouTube boxing channel. If you like the videos I've already put out, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button. Road to 500 subscribers. Let's get there. Please, guys, help me out. Let's get to 500 subscribers and continue to grow the channel. The video we're talking about today is the absolute slugfest, instant classic, amazing fight between Artur Beterbiev and Anthony Yarde. Guys, that fight was it was amazing. That fight was amazing. I can actually come on here and say I picked the right fighter. So obviously last time I had to eat crow. This time my pick came incorrect, but the pit was under pressure, man. Anthony Yarde, round of applause to Anthony Yarde, round of applause to Beterbiev because those guys put on an excellent fight. Anthony did himself so proud going in there with less experience than Beterbiev, less amateur fights, less high profile fights, but he went in there and he could fight. Anthony is a high level boxer, and this is what we've been crying out for Anthony for years, for him to fight people at a decent level, at a decent standard, so he could show people that he's a high level and not fight, knockover jobs and fighters that don't add much value. Today he fought a super world champion, a guy who was undefeated, who had 18 fights, 18 KOs, a solid guy, Russian, tough, good chin, excellent power, and Anthony stood up to him. Anthony stood up to him. He couldn't sustain it for the whole fight, and Beterbiev got to him in the end. But I'm telling you now, Beterbiev knows he was in a fight. He could feel that he was in a fight in there. That wasn't an easy. I would say that's Bertbiev's hardest fight, definitely. When we look at the fight, Yard started extremely well. He started fast. He had the probably the quicker hand speed. He had decent foot speed, good head movement, and he was feinting a lot. Started very well, and I was impressed. Like he was confident. A lot of people that fight Beterbiev, and it happens with Inui in the lower weight classes. A lot of people fight Beterbiev. They just try to survive. They go in there. They say, "I'm just going to throw a jab out. I'm going to move." Like incessively, just going to move, 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 move. And my win will be lasting 12 rounds, not winning the fight. But Anthony said, forget all of that. I'm coming here to fight this guy. I'm going to step to him. Like Anthony was fighting as if, he's fighting a guy on the road. He said, I'm going to step to you. I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to run. And you're going to come and see me. I'm going to see you in the middle of the ring and we're going to fight. We're going to see who has the better boxing skills and who has the better power. And Anthony definitely employed that. Like he was left hook was landing extremely well in like the first 3 rounds. I got like just to give you a hint, I actually scored it at the time of the stoppage in round eight. I had it up, I had Anthony 68, 65 up. So I had Anthony winning the fight. Obviously there was a lot of the fight still to go and Beterbiev was coming on strong, but I had Anthony up at the time of the stoppage. And Anthony in the first few rounds, I had him sweeping those first few rounds, landing great left hooks. He had a very good sneaky uppercut in there that Beterbiev just couldn't get out of the way of. And he was just doing good work early. Beterbiev was still landing his punches, but they were just at a lesser percentage than Anthony Yarde. Beterbiev was being a bit more methodical, and they said in the commentary that Beterbiev doesn't waste punches, and that is so true. He has a purpose for every time he throws out a jab, a punch, anything. He doesn't waste any punches. He's very methodical, and I do respect that about Beterbiev. But one thing that he's lacking, his head movement. He's got very poor head movement, in my opinion. For a come forward fighter, his head movement isn't elite. And Anthony Yarde, you can see at the end of the fight that Anthony Yarde had caught him and marked him up, cut his eye, marked him up. Like Beterbiev has poor head movement, and maybe that's something that someone in the future can exploit. In the future fights, potentially Callum Smith, could potentially Dimitri Bivol. Um, you can see that Anthony Yarde had good power because he hurt Beterbiev, especially in the fourth round. He hurt Beterbiev. He had Beterbiev stumbling, but what Beterbiev did so well when Anthony Yarde did hurt him or did try and back Beterbiev into a corner, he would step to his left or step to his right, pivot out, and then land something extremely hard on Anthony, and that would shake Anthony up. They do say you're at your most vulnerable when you're on the attack, when you're in full throw, and that's kind of what happened to Yard, and it kept happening to it happened to Yard about 3 or 4 times where he'd be on the attack, throwing combination punches, and then Beterbiev would just step to his left, step to his right, pivot out, bang, land something hard, and then that would shake Yard up, and then Yard would be in his head. Yard must be thinking, "Whoa, what's going on here? I was on the attack. How am I all of a sudden like on the wrong end of this?" And that happened about, yeah, as I said, 3, 4 times, especially in the end of round five and round six, where Yard has just been shaking up the last 20 seconds of the fight and hanging on a little bit. As we go into the further rounds, Beterbiev was coming on stronger, and Yarde was starting to slow down a bit, but he was still stepping forward and trying to fight. And as I said, props to him. He was definitely hurt a few times, but he didn't hide. He didn't go missing. He stood up and he fought and he tried to fight his way back into the fight. And unfortunately for him, in round eight, he went to throw a punch. He went to throw a right hand, and Beterbiev, just as Yarde had leaned back to throw his right hand, Beterbiev was landing his right hand, and boy, that was a huge punch for Beterbiev. Huge. It was like a chopping right hand, dropped Yarde. Yarde got up, and then Beterbiev just proceeded to lay a few more punches on him, and then Tunde stopped the fight. Watching the fight back, I've watched the fight two times now in its entirety. I think it's not an obviously it's not an early stoppage because the referee didn't stop it. It was Anthony's corner, but I think Tunde could have potentially just seen if Yard could come back and just because Yard looking at the fact that Yard pops up and he looks at Tunde. I think he says what? Tunde says something. Yard says, "What did you say?" Anyway, then he gets back into fight mode. Then he gets his hands up and he looks like he's going to try and ride a couple of the punches. Obviously, he's going to get hurt. It's a fight and he was hurt, but he tries to ride a couple of the punches and Tunde just stops the fight. And I think maybe Tunde's emotions looking at Yard as like being a father figure of Anthony Yard and looking at Yard as his son, and he's just maybe just slightly premature. But I could see Tunde's thinking he wants to save Yard, doesn't want Yard to get seriously hurt, and something bad happen. And we know that I mean not Kovalev, Beterbiev is a concussive power puncher. So yeah, maybe it's hard to judge it, but what I could say is that it was definitely trending towards Beterbiev being taking a lot of the later rounds and maybe potentially stopping Yard in a worse fashion. So maybe Tunde did the right thing. What I would say is Beterbiev doesn't come for points. So even the Yard being up at the time, Beterbiev doesn't come for points decisions. He comes to knock you out, and that's what he's been doing. 19 fights, 19 KOs. He comes with KOs. Exciting fighter. Yeah, well, let's see if he fights Bivol next for Undisputed. That's what we want. This is the Undisputed Champ channel, and we go from there. But excellent fight. Excellent fight. Excellent fight. Peace.